Time now for sports on SSPTV News.
Look who's here. It's Dave Seaman sitting shotgun on SSP TV News, but really he's in control of the segment. The man knows a ton. Check out his work in the Standard Speaker sports editor there. Dave, let's start talking about the Hazelton area Lady Cougars and their regular season with the big win over rival Crestwood. They split that series. They swept the Pittston area Patriots, their other rival in the league. Kind of an up and down year, I guess, by their standards, but they're the number 2 seed heading into that District 2 6A tournament. And Kendra File, she was named the Wyoming Valley Conference Division I Player of the Year. Dave, 47 three-pointers for her this season, and she was one of the ones who really helped them, steady that ship. And they seemed to get better as the year was going along, and that's probably good around playoff time.
Definitely. Somebody like Kendra File, too, has stepped up and been a senior leader for that team. After losing Mackenzie Uri, who was a fabulous starter for them for a few years, Kendra has stepped into the leadership role along with Maddie Morocco, who was a key linchpin in last year's championship run, too. And Coach Gav always has the role players step up, too, at this time of year, too. They'll pick up the pressure with their defense. They'll ride that defense and force teams into turnovers. And when they can get turnovers and translate those into points, that usually spells well for the Lady Cougars.
And Dave, let's talk about the boys now. Team you've covered all season long. Jeffrey Planutis was named the Division I Player of the Year over there in the Wyoming Valley Conference. They lose their last game against Myers. We're undefeated in the Wyoming Valley Conference, and I forget how long the streak was. I'm sure you remember, but it was going back a while now, their conference wins. But they lose to Myers, and Myers had a lot to play for. They're a good team. Could this pay off maybe, though, for the Cougars as they head to the district playoffs? Is there such thing as a good loss?
I don't know if Coach Joseph would agree any loss is a good loss, knowing how competitive he is, but going into playoffs, too, it does, like he said, maybe it puts a little fire in your belly, a little chip on your shoulder, perhaps, going into playoffs. Maybe knowing now you're not invincible, too, and knock you down a little bit of ways, and it makes you realize what you're playing for, and gives you a little bit of sense of urgency going into the playoffs, too, and knocked them out of the top seed. They would have been the top seed playing Delaware Valley. So they're playing a team in Scranton who is quite capable of beating teams. They played well against Crestwood early this year, Scranton. They have some good wins. It's an athletic team. Big man in the middle, and Matt Hart, who's a 6'9", 6'10" center. So that's going to be an interesting matchup for the Cougars with their size. And Cougars have to be ready for a challenge coming on Saturday.
And Dave, as we move into the district playoffs now, what are some of the matchups you think are the most intriguing? I'm really looking at the Shenandoah Valley Marion girls matchup. I loved watching. I got to see Marion in their last home game of the year, senior night, when they beat Monoy area. And of course, they have Bretta Carnish. She's really the star there. But it was like you said, almost with the Lady Cougars. It was the other members who stepped up in that game, showing they could play in big time games and be a difference maker, an X factor when they really have to be. So I'm looking forward to that game. Plus, Marion has Paul Bruto, who has a ton of experience. I wouldn't be surprised if they get to the District 11 final. What other matchups are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at that game too, because the last time they played, Shenandoah Valley did eke out a win at Marion too. That doesn't happen very often. Of course, Marion didn't have Emily Shaw, their fantastic freshman point guard, in that game. Shenandoah Valley also has some experience. They won a district title a few years back. Last year they took Mono area to the wire in a district final. Another game I'm looking is on the boys' side too. Mono area has to win their first game against Williams Valley first, but you could be seeing a Mono area Shenandoah Valley matchup in the semifinals too. And those rivals go back a long ways. Again, we say it's cliche, but throw out the records out the window and you get into a playoff situation, anything can happen. Marion boys are going to have some interesting matchups along the way. Maybe another matchup with Mono area, another matchup with Shenandoah. So that's where it's going to be intriguing, and that Hazelton area Scranton matchup is going to be something to watch as well.
Dave, let's close up with wrestling. It's that time of year when you're talking to a lot of coaches. You were talking with Hazelton area wrestling coach Keith Maurer, and he said you talked a lot about Penn State wrestling. They just beat Oklahoma State, and there was that great tweet that James Franklin said out was him and his coaching staff all in singlets. That was impressive. So if Hazelton area does well, Dave, down that they did well already, you think maybe we'll see Coach Joseph, Coach Gavio, maybe Mike Brennan in a singlet on social media of Hazelton area?
I don't know if I want to see Coach Gavio in a singlet or Coach Joseph or Coach Brennan for that matter, but I think there's a lot of support amongst one another. They're the different coaches. But I think it's a good time to be a sports fan in Hazelton area, because I think a lot of these teams and a lot of the individuals can do well representing the school and the community very well as we get into postseason competition. The wrestling team has a lot of returning veterans from their team of a year ago. Jimmy Hoffman obviously made it all the way to the state final last year too. So Carson Kinney had an outstanding run last year, and there's a lot of other wrestlers on that team that are looking to do big things once you get into district competition. It's another competition where you have to step up, and you want to keep moving on, and you have to be at your best, and I see no reason why our local wrestlers shouldn't do as well.
And there's always great moves being made in the Standard Speaker. Check out all of their coverage. You guys have a ton of feature stories coming up on Kendra File, also on Jeffrey Planutis, the two Hazleton area basketball players. So look out for them and more in the Standard Speaker.